everybody. Thank you so much for
Hello.
coming today. Here we are talking about microphones, at least here in the United States of America at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are talking tech in the middle of the afternoon. It's kind of like a nap, but not really.
Right. We're going to avoid the nap by
We're
talking
going to
tech.
avoid the nap. Yes.
Yep.
So before we get started with all the things that we're going to be covering today, I'm just going to give you a really quick hello. My name is Elsie Escobar. I am the community manager here at Libsyn. And today we are going to be talking microphones, all kinds of microphone related things, upgrades, downgrades, whatever it is that you need to do with your microphone today. And I have with me today as my guest to have this conversation, the mighty Laura Davidson from SHURE Microphones. And yay! Go ahead and let us know what you do for SHURE, because I didn't want to confuse people or say the wrong thing. So
yes, and because my title makes no sense when not explained contextually. So hi, everybody. Yes, so I'm Laura, and basically what I do is when the world is traveling, I would go out in person and teach people about our incredible brand that's been around since 1925. People who aren't familiar with us or people who are. And now I get to do live streams and podcasts and trainings and virtual events, which has actually been super fun.
Really? That's amazing. That's so good. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier to go, talk with people nowadays, right? From all over the world.
Definitely.
A little bit easier to have that conversation there, but
Yes, agreed.
but
I know.
nothing like actually touching the microphones and talking into them and all that stuff.
Yes, that's true. That is very true.
I miss a little bit of that stuff. All right. So starting off right off the bat, we wanted to approach this subject before we get into the nitty gritty of like the actual microphones themselves to really talk about the importance of microphones and what they can and they cannot do for you, which is something along the lines of I have seen folks that often think that their audio quality will immediately just become better because they've up leveling their microphone and they're investing in a microphone that is now more expensive and that they view the microphone as the
be all end all.
The be all end all, the salvation of audio quality.
The magic pill.
Yeah, I know, right? I'd love your thoughts on that, Laura. Like, so what do you think about, what are some things that podcasters can think about outside of maybe a microphone that could make a difference with audio quality?
That's a very cool question. Well, there's a couple of different things. First of all, and this is the question we always start out asking people when they come to a booth or wherever we're meeting up with them, where will you be using your microphone? Because Elsie told me a story where when she first started doing this, she was doing it from her kitchen table. And so, we've all been there, and kitchen tables are fine. They're stable, but they're not known for their acoustic treatments. Let's just say for the surrounding environments. So, but my room right now is not acoustically treated. It's a very sunny day, as you can see by the reflections. But that's what you want to think of first. Where are you going to be recording? Because if you're using a mic that's a condenser mic, it's going to be inherently more sensitive and it's going to pick up a lot more of the details of your voice, but also all of the other things that are around it. It's the nature of the beast, the way the capsule actually responds and moves. It's meant to be much more sensitive in a good way. So think about where you are, but then also what are you going to be plugging into? That's the next kind of thing you need to take into account. Do you have an interface? Do you not know what an interface is? Do you not want an interface? Then, there's options like the MV7 that we're both talking into where you don't need an interface because you can go USB or you can go XLR. So that's kind of it. Where are you going to be and how are you going to get it? How do you want to plug it in, basically?
Yep. I have found that making sure that whatever the microphone you use is really in alignment with your environment is possibly one of the key things that have really helped me. And to your point, I remember one of the very first microphones that I decided to invest in. outside of the ones that I had before, was all based on the way that it looked, because I wanted to have a really cute looking mic, which,
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't even know
It's
where I
happened to
got
the
that
best of
idea.
us. It's happened to all of us,
I
Elsie.
know. So
Don't be no judgment. No judgment.
yes, but I couldn't do much with it. Like, it came with already a base that I couldn't move around. I couldn't
Mhm.
move it from place to place. It was touted to have like a built-in thing inside of it, and it really didn't work for all of those reasons. And I realized at that moment that I really spent the money just on the look of it and not on the
Mhm.
quality of it, and it ended up not being the best choice for myself.
Mhm.
And that was really disheartening, I think, for me when I made that first decision. But the other thing I wanted to talk about before thinking about the environment and thinking about like what kind of microphone and when are you going to be using it is also, do you have anything to say about mic technique and how to
Oh,
use
yeah.
the microphone to make sure that you are using it to its optimal, in the optimal way?
Absolutely. I say this to people a lot. A microphone or okay, and a voice, first of all, is an instrument, whether you're using it for spoken word or you're a vocalist. And just like any instrument, you have to practice and you have to learn how to use it. And the microphone is our way of practicing and enhancing our instruments or
Mhm.
our tools. So if you get a microphone and you go up on it like this and you start plosiving and peeing and popping and all this stuff all over the place, peeing, yeah, then you're gonna, if you do that, that's a whole other problem. Then, you're gonna have different problems with the microphone. You have to get used to it. So if you can see, I have this actually coming into the side of my mouth, even though it's a front address mic. I could address it this way. I can address it this way. By addressing it from the side, I'm going to cut down on those plosives. And so that's just something that you she said peeing. Yeah, I did. I said
I
peeing.
know.
Right? It's just I did. I'm thinking of my kids would be dying right now. Anyway, so, it's just getting used to where the microphone is in relation to your voice and your space. And you just have to learn how to use it. So, it takes a little bit of getting used to. Certain mics like the SM7B, which I see the chat just blowing up with, this has a larger built-in windscreen. So you can see the capsule's all the way back here. It doesn't start until there. So that's why this has it's a lot more forgiving with those
Mhm.
plosives. And the MV7, the capsule's right here. So, you have to just kind of adopt. You wouldn't get into a 58 on stage and like just pop all over the place. It's technique. So, practice with it. Elsie and I were talking about headphones and the importance of headphones and
Right.
hearing yourself. If you
Mhm.
can't hear yourself and what you're recording, garbage in is garbage out. That's what we say. So you have to know what you're sounding like, and it just takes a minute. So,
Yeah. Oh, I think one of the things that you said that was like really key here, everybody, is that it's sort of like it's an instrument. The microphone is an instrument and we need to treat it that way. So it doesn't, I mean, yes, there are some microphones that are obviously better qualified for certain situations. And they're also, the quality of mics also is very varied.
yeah.
But at the same time, in the same way that you get an opportunity to work with your own personal instrument, you have an opportunity to gauge how you engage with your microphones in ways that really enhances what Laura was talking about, because the only way you know if your plosives are going to be too crazy or if your S's are going to be funky, or if you happen to, like me, have a lot of breath come out with certain words where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I really blew into that microphone when I said
Yeah.
that word. You
Yes.
get an opportunity to know this by
Ahead of
listening to
time.
yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to do that. Can you all raise your, just in case, I'm just asking now because I hear this all the time. How many of you actually listen to yourself versus having a hard time, like, not wanting to deal? Because I hear that a lot of the time where it's like folks are
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to listen to myself, or I hate listening to my voice and all of that. And I completely understand it from the, I guess, from a confidence perspective, from like kind of looking at yourself in the mirror. Sometimes you kind of don't want to. But I feel that when it comes to podcasting, it's really great to be able to use your ability to listen to yourself and see when you need to come closer to the mic to even, you can use it to drive a point home. You could be like,
Mhm.
no, this is really, really important.
Yeah.
And and
That
and
was
use
per
it.
but that was so cool. It's such an example of how to use this to enhance your instrument, your
Right.
tools. Yeah. Use that proximity effect. Use
That's
it,
right.
baby.
This is what we do. All right.
Yes.
So in that respect, that is outside of whatever microphone you're using. You
Right.
need to do that regardless of what you have in front of your face. So
Yes.
what I want to impart is that just because I happen to have this lovely mic, as she does, that I really adore, it doesn't necessarily mean that I am less than if you cannot at this time have this specific mic. It's
Right.
not the mic that does the majority of the work for you. It's you. We start with you and your environment and what you do.
Yes.
So, all right. So moving on, unless anybody has, or you would like to tell us a little bit more, Laura, about this specific topic, or shall we continue on and kind of moving on to?
Yeah, we can continue on. I did notice that Rob threw in the chat over here that the MV7 has a distance setting in the software app, which is super accurate and cool. So if you're like Elsie and you don't want to be as close to the mic, you can put it in what's called far mode. And then it doesn't have to be in your shot. It could be like off camera.
It could be just
but I like to be close to the mic. So I put it in near mode. So that's something fun to think about, that some mics have that kind of DSP operation, digital signal processing, where you can control the microphone from an app, which I can show you in a little bit.
Yeah, we're totally going to get into that. But you actually brought something up earlier on when we were talking about specific mics that you mentioned if you have a condenser mic, right?
Yes.
So what I kind of want to talk a little bit about for those folks that are out there, because I know that there's a lot of folks that are in here that really do know what the difference is between a dynamic microphone and a condenser microphone. But I'd love you to address this for the rest of us.
Absolutely. Okay. So I have a little visual aid because that's part of my job. Although I'm bummed because I just realized my condenser capsules are in the closet around the corner, but that's okay. We can still have this combo. So dynamic microphones are one of the actual first microphone technology were ribbons, which people think are new because they're having kind of a renaissance, or have been for the past like 8-10 years. They came first. Dynamic microphones, and this is our SM58 with its hat taken off, its windscreen, which you might notice it looks strangely like the SM57 because they are the exact same mic, just with a different windscreen, which actually changes the sound of the mic completely.
Wow, that's crazy.
So the way this works, you talk or you sing into here. There's a diaphragm, a thin piece of material that vibrates in response to whatever is coming into the microphone. It's actually attached to a coil, a metal coil that's surrounding a magnet. And so when you sing or talk, it vibrates, it moves that coil around the magnet, creating an electromagnetic field, goes down the mic, and that's how you convert your acoustical energy into electrical energy. Dynamics are great because you can put a ton of sound into them without them distorting. That's why it's good for live applications, drums, instruments, guitar cabs, vocals. But it takes a little bit more oomph to move the capsule and the diaphragm itself. So that's why this is good for broadcasting, because, if you're in a less than perfect environment, or if you have somebody who doesn't have great mic technique, you're not going to have to worry about the sensitivity of the mic as much. It's a little bit more forgiving. Whereas if you have a condenser mic, which is like this one, and I think a lot of people, just side note, can confuse the terms like dynamic and cardioid. Cardioid is a polar pattern. Dynamic is a microphone type. And condenser microphones. So condenser microphones work differently. They have a very thin diaphragm that's an electrically charged backplate behind it. And that's why you use phantom power to make them work, because that provides that electrical charge. So you sing or speak into it.
Pause right there really quickly. Can you just let them know what phantom power is? Because I think that's also something that sometimes gets overlooked.
It does. And it's on all of our mixing consoles, all of our interfaces. And it's basically, the phantom power is what's providing that electrical charge to the back plate of your mic so that you can take that acoustic energy and get it translated to electrical energy. If you see that little plus 48V symbol on your mixer or on your interface or in your DAW, that's what it's talking about. And it's not going to blow anything up if you plug it in, or if you turn it on for a dynamic mic, not going to do any harm. It used to damage ribbon microphones heavily. It will not damage ours. We don't recommend using phantom power with ribbon mics. So it's basically just power that's provided through the microphone cable that allows the condenser to convert the signal. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So
absolutely.
That's what phantom power is. It sounds sneaky and trickier than it is, but that's it. So condenser microphones are just naturally and inherently more sensitive, and they pick up more detail and nuances of the voice. So they're great for vocal applications in the studio. If you want to do recording or broadcasting and podcasting, it is great for that. But you want to make sure you have a treated space if you're going to use a condenser mic.
Right, because of the ability for it to like suck up.
Yeah, I mean,
All the
yes.
things.
Yeah, because like people think, oh, my microphone listens. Well, no, it's dumb. It's not going to listen to us, but it's just much more able to move easily. So that's how it's capturing more sounds like your HVAC and your cat meowing and whatever small sound you don't want to get into the recording. It's going to capture it.
So I guess to kind of overgeneralize what we're talking about here, and again, this is a vast generalization for most podcasters, everyday type of podcasters. Folks like, at least like me, that I'm, recording in my bedroom at this moment, that we don't tend to have proper treated spaces around us. So we have to record in situations that may or may not be optimal for actual recording, that a dynamic microphone would be a better choice for us, so that it's more able to move, more accessible, like getting better sound given our environment.
Correct.
Correct.
Right. That is fair. Fair point.
So just saying, mind you, though, again, I have used condenser microphones that have worked very well, but not proper condenser ones. In fact, I used to use my Zoom H2N as my external microphone, and all of those Zoom recordings, which is a digital recording, actually, a digital recorder. And it did really well for me, even in crazy circumstances, simply because of the way that I was using it at that time and how I had it sort of angled towards me. But
yes, that is a good point.
Recommend it too much. But anyway, so now that if we will respond, we will go back to some of these questions again, if you have those towards the end, to be able to look at all that stuff. And so coming up on this now, so what do you think in terms of if people are looking to upgrade for a microphone? Do you think that spending more money on a microphone will immediately get you better sound? Like,
no, I do not. I mean, okay. I haven't met a person who has talked into an SM7B and it hasn't sounded phenomenal. That said, you need other things to work with the SM7B to make it sound fantastic, namely something like this cloud lifter. However, you are able to achieve amazing things with an SM57, an SM58, a dynamic microphone that costs $100 or less. So it's all about, again, how you treat the microphone, how you speak into it. If you're over here, like, you can have a $1,000 mic and that's not going to make a difference. You have to have mic tech.
The mic.
Yeah, please. Is this thing on? Yeah. So, that's part of it. Know how to use the mic, but it's such a personal choice too. Like, you wouldn't, as a guitarist, just play whatever guitar, and I think singers, vocalists, because I am one, I can say this, we're a little lazy, with podcasting, we want something that's going to be simple, make our lives easier, and sound great. So does it have to cost a ton of money? No. But the best way to do it is to try them whenever possible.
Good. I'm all in there. Yeah. And then I also have a cloud lifter as well. Because it does. So actually, speaking of that, though, we had a conversation about this before, and sometimes this could get a little bit in the weeds when talking about what a cloud lifter actually does, because it has really just one job. It has one little job. There's not even buttons. It's
no, this is it.
It's no buttons. It's just like you stick the things and you're done.
It's mic goes in, comes back out, then you go into whatever. It's adding more than 20 dB of gain, but it adds additional gain because things like the SM7B are inherently quiet due to the circuitry. So it takes a lot of gain for them to be heard, unless you have additional gain from something like this or from your interface or your mixing console. So I'm seeing people, putting in the mix pre, totally get that. I have an Apollo Twin. It has enough headroom. The RME Babyface Pro, which is expensive but cool, has enough headroom to do it. And even our little MVI single channel interface, there's a little 20 dB boost that you can engage in the app. And this little guy will do it. Yeah, that's kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So essentially what that does is, something I found out way back with the very first time that I actually bought a microphone, I ended up finding out that I needed that and I didn't know what it was even called, meaning I plugged in my microphone. At that time I was using a small little interface into my computer, and I remember recording and I was like turning all the volumes up. Like that's what I thought was going to fix it. Like it's recording and I can barely hear myself. How come the sound of when I record here is so low and when I record there is so high? I don't know how to fix it. And I didn't even know that was a term. Yes. So usually what happens is if you have a microphone that doesn't have as much, like that you have to really boost the gain in order for people to hear, what happens is you're talking normally for yourself into the recording. And then when you get the file, it looks like the little audio lines are so small.
The waveforms like,
yeah, it's like super small. And then you're like, but my voice is so quiet and my guest is so loud. How do I make that work? And so that's what we're talking about here. When you have an interface, like I'm using my Rodecaster Pro, and Laura just mentioned a bunch of other interfaces and stuff. Sometimes you need to have that sort of intermediary there just to boost it up so that the recordings are more equal to each other and everybody's sound is more of the same once you get your recording, which is different than volume. Very different. That's where I think sometimes we're like, but I recorded it really loud, or my guest heard me well.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about from your mouth into the recording, wherever it is that you're putting it.
That is the level that you set that will determine your level going to tape, as we used to say.
Yes. Yes.
Or going out to in a live performance. Like you set your gain and then you adjust the fader to adjust the mix and how loud you're going to be.
Exactly.
And I do see, MV7 does not need a cloud lifter, just full disclaimer. So somebody put that in there. So it does not.
And you can definitely play with it in the back. But anyway, yes. So let's go ahead and move, keep on moving along here to looking at some of the other questions. And so we've talked about, actually, we covered all of those things, everything that we've been wanting to do. And then what I'd like to see if we can guide folks that are looking for, like, what are some questions that people need to ask themselves if they're looking to buy, let's say two types, like either their first microphone or they're looking for an upgrade. Like, I know that there's vast variations between those two reasons, starting with like budget, but
that's the main one probably.
And upgrade, like if you wanted to look for an upgrade from
so I would say if you're going to be buying your first microphone, this goes actually into something else we're going to talk about using the internet as your oyster. Like we didn't have the ability to go Google things and find people like you in this wonderful community to give recommendations. So that's a good starting point. What is your favorite podcaster using? That's when I think a lot of people, that's where they start.
Right.
But that would be intimidating if you see an SM7B and you're like, well, it's $400. So, things you want to think about. What are you trying to do with your podcast? Do you want to be able to capture multiple things aside from the voice, like Foley and backing stuff and, just other things? Then you can look at something like the MV88 Plus, which is a stereo condenser mic and kind of Swiss Army knife application mic. So how do you want to use it? Do you want to spend money now so that you don't have to spend money again when you want something a little nicer? Making the investment up front definitely helps. And again, it goes back to where are you going to be using the mic? So if you're starting out in your kitchen, maybe start with a dynamic, but go with a dynamic that's on the higher end if you can, because then it'll stick with you throughout. And that's kind of the biggest advantage. And also there's other stuff that comes into the signal chain, like what kind of preamp are you using? That's a whole other can of worms. But if you buy a decent mic, then you can always upgrade your pre's and get a better experience there too.
That's good. We do have some. We are going to have some follow-up questions. There's a lot of the stuff simply just from what we're talking about now. But like kind of sticking with what you just said about the internet being your oyster, what do you think, or what are some things that folks can do in order to make the best decisions that they can, about the podcast or stuff that comes up from the podcast itself, or
Yeah.
regarding microphones?
Well, I think there's some podcasts that actually even talk about the gear. Like there's this awesome one that I was just on the other day called the Podcast Club. It's hosted by Molly Ruland and Adam Levin and
Cool.
Marcus. Oh, he's going to kill me because I'm spacing on his last name.
That's all right.
Where they just talk about podcasting,
Right.
all the inherent things that you need to know. So you start finding those influencers that you respect, or you find the forums. That's the other thing. Like forums didn't exist all that long ago. So now when I need to figure something out quickly, I Google it, and I go and I find out, like, how do I get the audio from my podcast to go back into a Zoom call so I can hear myself and the guest and the video I want to play? I'm not kidding. That's legit. And yeah, and the answer is Loopback, if anyone wants to know what that is. But that's what we're all living in. So like use that, Google it, find the sources that you respect, like Libsyn, and then, go from there, because you don't have to just go it alone and start the process and be lost. There's plenty of resources out there.
I love that. I love that. I also really like to get very specific, because what I have found from when it comes to Googling or searching for things, because I have very unique way or very unique experience of me solving a problem,
Yes.
I did find out that there are like maybe some microphones that work better for me given my lifestyle. So that has been something that I was really adamant about. There are some mics out there that are really big and heavy, and that doesn't work for me because I have to keep changing where I am all the time.
Yeah.
I need something light, fast, easy to stick in and out. Like I don't have the time to be messing with precious things or big heavy stuff. So even though, that may not be that, like for me, that matters a lot. That's like a big question.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a great question. I've never even thought about that. Although I guess I've thought about it in context of like, do you need to be mobile, which is kind of what you touched on.
Correct. That's right.
But like, that's a great point. If you want something that's just run and gun, set up, grab the interview, grab the episode and be done, then something like the MV7 is awesome for that, because you can use it with your Rodecaster Pro when you get back home. You can use it out in the field, plug it into your phone, capture a great interview. There's so many options, but it's a very important thing to think about.
So now we're actually moving into some questions that we have going on, and then circle back to some other podcaster related stuff for you, Miss Laura.
Okay.
But these are some questions that we got prior, and then we're going to start to address the questions that are coming in there, because I see that chat is moving along. It's doing all the things.
It is.
All right. And I think we answered this first one, which was about what are the questions I should be asking myself when I'm shopping for a new mic.
Yes.
And this was actually Stacy Sims. I think that she has escaped us for this moment, but she can actually hear back. I remember that she asked this question. She says that she's used the same one for 5 years, and I'm not sure it's time to switch, but I'm exploring, she says.
Right. Which, there's no like expiration date on your mics. There's people who've had 58s for 58 years, it's not, you don't have to change your mic just because new technology is coming out. We as the manufacturer, of course, would love that if you did that. Right. But, when you find something that works, stick with it. Stick with it.
You don't get any brownie points for just like me. Like when I bought the microphone because it was so cute.
It's so
That's
cute.
not, I'm sorry. That's
so
such
cute.
a bad, I failed so badly.
No,
okay.
You did not.
Dynamic versus condenser, we've already talked about that. This is a good one. Let's see, Laura, what you say about this one. I would like to know about best mics for women's voices, those of us that don't have a lot of bass. So what do you think about that?
That's a great question. So if you use something like a dynamic microphone, they tend to be a little warmer just inherently in how they're built and how, like we talked about, how it makes that magnet move and it takes more sound to make it do that. So that's going to kind of tone down any brightness or harshness that some of us ladies can experience with our voices. So a dynamic microphone is a great place to start. And something like the MV7 or the SM7B in the Shoreline. I know there's other mics out there, but y'all, just go with me. But yeah, those are a great place to start. Or the SM58, which is this one. Mine's all dented. That's a great thing. They can be dented and dropped and they still work. So this is going to have that inherent warmth. Whereas something like this, the Beta 58, this has a tighter polar pattern, meaning you can be on it, and if you go off axis even the littlest bit, it's going to kind of drop out. This is what you want to enhance the details and the brightness of the voice. So warm sound, slightly brighter sound, SM58, Beta 58. And there's others that have that frequency response built in to make them inherently brighter. And the betas that we make tend to be inherently brighter just because of where the frequency curve goes.
Well, that's good to know. Look at that. I had no idea.
That's cool.
That's so cool. This is kind of along the same lines. Let's see if it's the same question, but just stated differently. So this one has said, I have a higher pitch voice, especially when I'm excited. I know different microphones have different impacts on voice recording. Is there one that would help me better regulate my pitch?
That's an interesting question too, because you're only going to get so much from the capsule of the mic. It's not going to change or inherently hear you differently. So you want to start with a mic that's on the warmer side. So like that SM series that I was talking about. But then you have to maybe do a little massaging with the EQ in post or pre. If you're getting stuff ready, you can find that preset in your DAW and be like, okay, that's it. That stop ripping my face off. Like I can be excited. Yeah. Also, something to engage is something called a limiter. If you have a very dynamic voice and you get really excited, you can engage the limiter and it will keep you from, melting faces and clipping. So, which is actually kind of a fun segue to the app because we do have that.
That's right. The app. We got to talk about that. There's a way for you to show it? That would be fabulous.
Let me do that real quick. Like I'm going to share my application. Okay. So you should see the app right now.
I do see it.
So I'm in auto mode, which is what we talked about and mentioned in the chat. So I have it in near, far, near, far.
Sesame Street in the house.
I just can't say it without doing that. But so this is far mode. So you can hear, even though I'm a little bit further off the mic, it's actually going to automatically adjust my signal to compensate so that I don't have to be as close as I do when I'm in near mode. So that's great for people who have not the best mic technique. Like you have a guest on the show and they keep like going all over here and they're like, and they're really animated. Near mode and far mode is the one for them. And there's also some tone control. So if you have no idea what EQ means and you're like super bright, like that question, you can switch it into dark mode and take off some of that, put it into natural mode or get bright and get jiggy with it. Okay. So, you have those presets. If you don't know about mic technique, that can do the driving for you. And it's in auto mode, it's constantly adjusting the gain very subtly so that if you move around, it's going to stick with you. So it's kind of like having an auto engineer that's riding the faders. But if you want to be fun and get a little more in-depth, you can go into manual mode and you can make the settings whatever you want them to be. And you can adjust something here. You can engage something called the limiter. So like I was saying, if I got really dynamic, you can hear it. Whereas if I did it like that, it gets a little clippy. So
it's all in there.
It is. And these EQ curves that you see here come directly from the SM7B. So somebody was asking about the settings on the back of your SM7B. I can't give you a recommendation for the best one because it truly is dependent on your voice. I tend to like the high pass and presence boost one here, this preset, but it's up to your individual taste. So in other words, you can have control over the mic or you can let the mic do the thinking for you. And it's just a really cool feature that we've put in there so that you don't have to you don't have to worry
You
about
don't
it.
have to learn all of the post-production and all the stuff in a box, and it's all like in that little app, which is great because this could be like the first exposure for some folks to even considering
Yes.
adjusting a microphone in this fashion. So this is the easiest thing to kind of get to it. So that's
You can
cool.
also control the mic up here too. I forgot to mention that. It's touch.
Yeah.
And you're using XLR. So when it's XLR, it does not light up. A lot of people are like, what the heck? I got it. It doesn't light up. And I'm like, it's an XLR mic. Does your 58 light up when you plug it in? So same concept. Dynamic mic, XLR cable. That's it. If you want all the controls from the app or the touch sensitivity, you plug it in via USB. That's what makes it light up. So you can control your mic gain, your headphone level, your mute, a couple of different things. So I forgot about that.
Good. I love it. So we're going to be heading over to the ask a question section there.
Sweet.
Oh my God. Here we go. I'm going to start kind of like looking through some of the stuff here. I'm going to address Jamie here real quick. Due to lockdown, I can't record at my usual studio and stuck recording in GarageBand with my iPhone at home. Is there an ideal USB mic for that situation? Are we partial now?
We are super partial.
We're super partial, Laura.
But we make several other USB microphones. So, but because you have a studio, this can go into the studio when lockdown stops. But this is great for plugging into your phone. Yeah, that's why it's cool.
That's
XLR
why it's cool to be able to do that. So yes, so I think that going back to what she mentioned before, just to be able to bring this point home for you, is that sometimes we do need a solution for that moment. And what I have found with a mic that is both XLR and USB, like the MB7 is, then you have the option to be able to use it in a light fashion with your computer when you don't have very much going on. Maybe just with your iPad and a little connector kit on it, to be able to support that.
Yes.
To be able to do that, and also be able to take it with you once you have your fancy place and up level it by using it into the XLR and all the gear, right? So you don't have to have two, you can just have that one, which I think is a lovely way to deal with this. So we have another question about the SM7B. So it has a switch on the back under the plate. Can you provide hints as to which setting is best for use? Oh, you answered that.
I did, but I can still like do a little show and tell so that people know what they're talking about. So, and sorry, it's in mirror here, but yeah. So to do this, you just need to use like a little pencil tip or like a paper clip to adjust this, but you can slide these things and make it replicate those EQ curves that we showed.
Oh, cool. Look at that.
Yeah. So you can do that. But again, I mean, I have it with the low pass engaged in this particular one. But you can have the presence boost, or you can do it flat. Sometimes I recommend going flat because then that way you can take care of it in post. If there's something that you wanted to bring out more, you can do that with EQ. So that way flat, if you have multiple guests, especially, like put it in flat, and then that way you'll have a nice blank canvas to work from in post-production.
That's very cool. This is my personal pain, which is what mics are best for mouth clicks.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh. I can give you a little bit of an answer to you, but based on just my experience. But you go, Laura, and then
no, I mean, dynamics are going to be the best, just because they're not going to pick up all the crispies. But what? Give me your take, Elsie.
Well, my take is actually a little bit of blend of not necessarily even, the dynamics for sure. Making sure that you're not totally on the mic. So again, maybe having the ability to turn the gain up a little bit more so that you're slightly farther away from the microphone. That's like really good. And the other thing is just like a physical thing where I started to learn because I had to edit myself so much, I understood what types of words were creating the most mouth noises. And therefore I was able to address a little bit more of when I tend to do that, which I found, and usually, I don't know, it usually is at the beginning of sentences or like when you've had your mouth closed for a while. So if your mouth has been closed for a while, somebody else is speaking, then you're like, well, and then that's when it's like, oh, geez. So I'm a little bit more aware now. And also the whole thing that you were talking about in terms of side address, like sometimes side address softens them a little bit more.
It does.
Yeah. And I guess sadly now I can see my mouth noises when I'm editing. Like I'm like, oh, that's a mouth noise. Snip it. Take that out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Yeah. So it's more about me than the mic.
Yeah, totally. I
So
agree with that.
we have a question about the MV7 and the SM7B, if they are the same capsule.
They are not the same capsule.
Oh my gosh.
I know. No, the SM7B is still the iconic reach for the stars mic. So we did not intend to replace it or try and do one better. It is a different animal and a totally different capsule.
Different animal.
Mhm.
All right. So we have another one that says purchase 2 MV7s for my co-host to match my SM7B. The MV7 is great, Mike, but the windscreen could be better. I had to buy 2 SM7B windscreens to replace the one that is on the MV7. Any chance this will be fixed in the future?
Well, I can't speak to what we will be doing in the future because I'm not a psychic, but I will say we're always taking this feedback, seriously taking the feedback into, back to the team. That's also part of my job, is to report back to engineers and say, hey, in the field, this is not making the people so happy. But you're right, it is a little bit thinner in some regards, but you can actually kind of cheat it if you do this.
You can cheat it. Oh yeah, you said that the first time we talked. You mentioned that she like pulls it up.
You just give it a little hoist. But he did mention that he bought. I think it was he in the comments. I apologize for assuming that the SM7B windscreen that can go onto your MV7. But he's right. You shouldn't have to buy 2 other windscreens. That's fair enough. I get it. But I will take that back to the team and let them know that you said that.
Really good. Great feedback.
Yes. We love
and now
customers.
we have a direct question from you. Is the MV7 output we are hearing from Laura coming from the analog or digital output?
It's digital. I'm faking you out a little, and that was not intentional, but I had this whole like fancy rig set up to where I was going to do like multiple mic check tests. Elsie can attest to that. And it was ready to go. And I was like, my mixer's too noisy. And so I was like, abort right at the beginning of this whole adventure. So you're hearing the USB, but you can use both of those outputs simultaneously, which is super handy.
So great.
Super handy. So if you're recording into your DAW, you can actually capture both sounds, the DSP affected tone, the dry tone of the XLR. You can have a backup recording going into a Zoom recorder with the XLR side and have that USB going into the computer. So it's a redundancy thing. It's just neato. They're both active, but I am using USB.
I mean, just as a little bit of a tip for those of you recording, that is something that has saved my behind so many different times. Being able to do exactly what you're talking about, that I'm running USB and I also have the XLR as well, because there have been times, particularly when like my computer has died in the middle of a recording. Yikes. And I have been able to have that backup, that got clean backup on my audio recorder. And the opposite has been true as well, where I have been amiss in replacing batteries for like one of my Zoom digital recorders, and they ran out of batteries, and then I'm like, oh my God. And so no. But having just both simultaneously be able to capture in some way has really, oh my gosh, it can save my behind.
It's a game changer. Yes. I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
So, Miss Eileen, I see your question here. What desk stand am I using for my mic today? So this is actually a very inexpensive one. It is just like a little aluminum one. You can get this one. I bought it over at Guitar Center. I think it was like $20 or something like that. Sweet. And it's been really great because I can actually make it bigger too. So if I need to, you can undo this little thing and make it taller if I need it to have like a just come closer to my mouth, and it folds up. I travel with this one also. I have found it to be really, really super helpful. So that's my little guy. I think I believe it is in Amazon, and I think if you just do tripod, desk stand.
That's a mouthful.
I know I can't even say that. Aluminum, I think it'll come up. And it's very inexpensive. It's for sure less than $30 to do this. And it's so helpful. And again, talking about, what we were talking about before, what I was saying that I need to be very mobile. I don't really have the luxury of a place where I go to record every single time. I have to constantly be dependent. Like right now, like yesterday when we did our test,
you were in a different spot.
I was in a different spot. And that's because that's where I tend to record audio, my audio, whenever I come do a podcast, I do that. But if I'm doing something like this, I have to have a different setup. And so I have to switch things around, and I can't be moving and attaching things and new desk. And this is so easy. I pick it up and it's on my desk in front of me now. So it's really great. Okay, so here's another one. Hi, specific question for best mic for direct to computer, no mixer, and a woman's voice. I'm 5 years podcasting with an ATR 2100, and I'm a former radio person, so I know technique. Are there better USB options, or do I have to add a mixer dash interface? Well, that's from Stacy. Oh my God, we answered the question, but now that she gave us that it was the ATR 2100, now we can answer.
Now we know. Yeah. So this is a great option. I am a female. So is Elsie, and we are using this via XLR, the MV7. So it's the latest and greatest, but that doesn't mean it's the only option. There are many out there. The MV51, since you have good mic technique, is a great one for that. And I don't have
the MB, whatever you just said, MB what?
51.
51. Oh. Ooh. Look at that. That's different.
Yeah, this one's cool. It can sit on the desktop. It can sit on a stand. It can go into a boom arm if you want it to. This is a large diaphragm condenser. So we were talking about condensers, dynamics. This is going to pick up more details, nuances, and has these cool presets you can activate from the mic. So that could be a really cool choice for Stacy. It will sound great on female or male voices. But I'm just a big fan of the MV7 right now.
Now knowing that it was Stacy asked that question before I knew that. So she does have the good mic technique. And what I venture to say, and I mean, even though there are other choices, I think that there aren't very many choices for dynamic microphones that are both USB and XLR. They are more of that when they're condenser. Yes, for sure. But when it comes to dynamic microphones, that in the way that we spoke right now, there are very, very few. In fact, I think there's 3.
Yes. Yep.
Something like that. There's 3 choices. And out of the 3 choices, this is I guess if you have the budget a little bit more if you're going to invest, this is how I would go. If I was going to aim lower in terms of investment, you already have an ATR 2900, Stacy. Right alongside that, the Samsung Q2U does the same thing. They're essentially almost the same price point. But if you are willing to invest and looking for something different and better, I would say that MV7 is the way to go because it is all the things a step up. So, will you be covering acoustic treatments in this cast?
Yeah. So we did.
Like to cover that?
Yeah, we don't have a ton of time, but what I was going to say is, and talk about it specifically, is that you don't have to go out and get Oral X treatments and glue them all over your walls and wreck your space. You've all seen the hilarious pictures though of podcasters with pillows all over the place and in a closet. But there's some truth to that. You don't have to have a perfectly acoustically treated space if you're using something like the MV7 that can accommodate for that. But right now I'm in a room with 2 gigantic windows and glass all around me. So what I do when I record is I put down the shades, which are these super heavy fabric dampening shades. Or I throw up this super fancy acoustical treatment known as a comforter. And I will stick it up to the wall to block out all of this glass. Get any glass out of the way. Get any reflective surfaces. So if you have hardwood floors, if you have an area rug, if you have sheets, if you have anything that will dampen that, because acoustics as you may or may not know, they bounce all over the place and they love reflective surfaces. So by cutting down those reflective surfaces, that's what is going to give you more of you and less of the room that you're in. So, blankets, pillows, curtains. But if you can go the whole hog, there are some great options from Oralex and from Gear Fab Acoustics. They make these cool panels that can like hang on the wall and don't have to be glued to the wall. But that was all I was really going to say. And unless you want to get something like this reflection filter, which is very cool. And you can use this anywhere. So Elsie, this is appealing to us mobile types, although it doesn't fold up or anything, but it's not heavy. And it just screws right into a mic stand. And then you can use it with a dynamic, a condenser mic. It doesn't matter. And yeah, then you just have this nice little reflection filter that cuts down on the reflections of the room and the space you're in.
This is good. I love it. So
cut down the bounciness. That's
I have there's many questions in there. I think we can get through many of them just with answering these two. Everybody has asked what microphones we're using. So both of us are using the Shure MV7.
Yes.
Okay, so that's it. And now, Laura, are you ready to divulge why we're not using headphones? Do you want to let them in to how we have rigged this?
I know. Look at us. We're like all stealth.
We're the stealth mode. So for those of you, I know it's such a vanity thing, ladies.
It is.
I don't know, or men, whatever. Yeah. Sometimes over the ear stuff and like having those things hanging out, they just, mess with your earrings and the cuteness factor.
Yes, the earrings.
Oh my God, the earrings. And so we have in-ear ones that go over the ear and you can hide them behind. And even if I were to put my hair back, you wouldn't have to put them in there, right? And Cheryl, I know you have those because I think we've talked about them in She Podcast and she bought them. So this is like, they're the best. And then nobody knows you're wearing them and you look so stealth.
Well, and nobody knows, or not a lot of people know, Shure makes these, and not just for our in-ear monitors. Like you see rock stars on stage jamming out with their in-ears. Well, we make them for listening too. So like that's what's plugged in to my MV7 right now. That's that cable.
How about that, y'all? You learned something great. So Rob Greenlee has asked a question. Does the MV7 store settings made via USB when you use XLR only?
No, it does not. Because if you're XLR only, you're not getting any of those DSP presets. So when you customize the mic in the app or on the mic itself, when you unplug it and plug it back in again via USB, it remembers all those settings. You don't customize anything with the XLR. You are just, when it's in XLR, think of it as being this microphone. Can you customize this microphone? No. So keep that in mind. If you want to use the DSP and the settings, use USB. If you want it to plug into a mixer and then do all of your stuff magically through the preamps, your DAW, your effects, that's when you use XLR.
There you go. We've had some questions about why mixers are so noisy. Do you have an answer for this?
Yeah, I mean, mine's old. That's why mine's noisy. No, I mean, they're not mixers for live applications. Don't always have the quietest preamps because they're trying to do a lot. They're trying to cover a lot of bases. Whereas preamps on like a Universal Audio Apollo Twin sound really quiet because you don't want to introduce any noise into your signal chain when you're recording. So there's a little more fudge room on the live side is why they tend to be a little louder.
That's right. We have a couple of more questions here. One of them, and we're going to start wrapping it up in like last moments here. There's a question about why, why are the mic activators such as Cloud Lifter required for some microphones as the SM7B, and why not make the SM7B just not need a Cloud Lifter?
That's a great question. And the SM7B was created in the early 80s. So it's been around for a while. Or excuse me, the SM7 was. The SM7B came out a little bit later than that. But the way the circuitry is built, the way the humbucker coil is built into the mic, it would be a whole overhaul to completely make it just not need that cloud lifter or not need that inline booster. So yes, it would be a great idea to make one that way. And I will take that back to the team as well. See, that's why we do these things. This is what my job is. I love it.
This is it. And just really quickly to clarify, what we have in our ears is not wireless. It's wired.
Yep.
You just wear, like I put them in the back of me instead of in the front of me. And then, see, that's exactly how I wear mine. So I have them here and it's like the best thing ever. Super stealth. Again, nobody's looking at your back. So
no, theoretically.
Yeah. And you cannot use, just to really quickly answer this, you cannot use a cloud lifter via USB. It is XLR.
You wouldn't need to. Again, the MV7 does not need the cloud lifter, XLR or USB.
Generally speaking, if I may be wrong on this, but I don't believe, the question is, do different mics need different interfaces? And I don't think that that's the case. I mean, because you can use the interfaces with every mic.
Yeah.
Or mic,
You can. They'll just, certain ones have more gain so they can drive them differently. Like that Apollo Twin has more gain that it can apply to the SM7B. Whereas something like a Scarlett is going to, well, actually, no, the Scarlett might be able to power it. I'd have to check that.
It's just about like the, being able to, oh my God, I lost my train of thought, like right there. Cause I saw the Slack come up and I'm like, I'm in the middle of a thought and poof,
squirrel. We talked about this.
That thought. I guess I will get it back at some point.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I know. Anyway, for right now, we're going to start to wrap it up here. Does anybody have any last questions? I know that there's some few in here, but I just wanted to make sure we covered everything, especially you, Laura. If there's anything that you would like us to know, there is actually a call to action. I don't know if you see at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
If you can see it, it says learn more about SHURE.
It does. And that takes you to a whole page that's dedicated to podcasting. So it's like,
oh, that's great. See
bundles for podcasters, mics for podcasters, headphones for podcasters. So yeah, I thought that might be the most helpful.
Will be crazy. And I am going to show you all really quickly. I'm going to share my screen. I think that you can see it. Do you see my screen now? Oh, yes. Here we go. So this is just how to connect with us. If you want to take a look at that and write down our emails, or you connect with me via social. I don't think we have your social stuff there, Miss Laura. But if you are on social, you are open to connecting that way, we can.
Yes, Laura Clapp Music is my social, CLAPP.
There we go. So we have that going on. And just to follow up for us too, just in case that y'all are interested in navigating through our new Libsyn coming up, Libsyn interface, we have Libsyn 5, Libsyn 5 beta community that you can join. And Callie is going to be pasting that down there. You can see it right now, beta.libsyn.com. So if you are interested in seeing all the fancy stuff and like navigating through all that, you are welcome. In fact, we want all of y'all, if you are not part of the beta community, to start to join and get a chance to test drive the Libsyn interface, since it is not one of those things that you get an opportunity to go do that in real life. Like microphones, you could do it digitally and still test drive. Yeah. And also, just a real heads up, I don't know if you knew this, Laura, but you can actually get your podcast on Audible and Amazon Music. Did you know that?
I did not.
Isn't it? It's the funnest thing ever. So
that is the funnest thing
in
ever.
Libsyn, if you do release a podcast, like somebody I know that is going to be doing a podcast very soon, you can actually get it on Audible and Amazon Music. And Callie is also going to be sharing that down there in the chat if you guys want to go and add it. If you're in Libsyn, you can very easily just add that destination and boom, you're there. And then you can be found by other people.
That's
but
so
now,
cool.
I think we're going to close out this time together by you letting us know a little bit about your upcoming podcast and what that's been like for you.
Oh gosh, I've been trying to get this podcast up and running. I have 3 episodes and I just need to do it, but it's called, should I tell them what it's called?
Yes, tell them what it's called.
It's so scary. It's called Songs from the Everyday, and it's everyday people that I interview, and then I write a song based off of the interview.
I mean, that is such a great
So it's coming. It's
So you heard it here first. She has not, she wanted to be ready. And I know we had actually this in the notes of like how like terrifying it is to release a podcast, like an episode, like a podcasts, right? I mean,
yes,
it's terrifying. It's terrifying. We get it. I feel it. I mean, I've been doing this for a while and I know that like what it feels like to like actually do it and like launch it. It's the scariest thing ever. So we're going to have to hold Laura accountable to make sure she gets her stuff done.
Please.
Oh my God.
Using Libsyn, which has such incredible guides for how to do it. So thank you for sending me that.
Yeah. Real. So she's like, I don't know what to do. What is the thing? What's the checklist? I'm like, we have a checklist.
Boom. Yeah. She's like, rapid fire. Here you go. So I'm on it. I'm going to put it up there.
Yeah. So in this, so everybody, if you have any follow-up questions, you can definitely reach out to us via social. You can also either reach out to Laura or I via our emails, elsie@libsyn.com, if you need to do anything like that. And I will forward them to Laura if you didn't get a chance to see that. We can continue this conversation and see if there's something else that you all want to talk about in terms of microphones so that we can better help you in other ways. And I hope that we can see you and actually play with the microphones
soon in real life.
Real life.
Podcast movement, maybe. Wouldn't that be neato?
Wouldn't that be nice? And people can play with the, yes, it's amazing. So anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for showing up today. Y'all have been amazing. So happy to see you here. And that's it.
Thank you for having me. I really had fun.
You're so welcome. Thank you for showing up.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.